Hey YouTube, what is up? Budster Brown back with a new movie review for you guys, specifically on Black Adam. My thoughts on this movie are pretty mixed, as there's a lot that I liked in the movie that I thought was fresh and original. However, there was a lot of flaws that I had with the movie that really dragged the overall quality down, and I feel like the movie could have been a lot better, but it didn't quite reach that height. But for more details, stick around for the review. First off, I want to talk about my experience with the character of Black Adam. I've seen him in various comic books, and I've seen him in video games, and I've always thought he was a cool guy, but I really didn't know much about him other than I liked how he was a dark mirror to Shazam, and that was appealing to me. So if any of my complaints come off as, oh, you just don't understand the character, bro, it's probably because I don't, and it's purely just an issue I have with the story of the movie. I want to get into things that I like about this movie, mainly The Rock playing Black Adam. I thought he did a great job. He brought his usual energy, but he also carried a very stoic personality throughout the whole movie that I quite like. He's very brutal. This man wrecks people all the time. Very violently, I might add. And I will say that is the biggest breath of fresh air that this movie offers. Having sort of an anti-hero in the main role as someone who people look up to, yet is kind of a darker character, I like about him. Black Adam's brutality, along with his fish-out-of-water nature, I think adds a charm to the movie that isn't seen in a lot of other DC movies that I have watched. If I had to compare him to anyone, I would say Knuckles from the Sonic 2 movie or Drax from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Since he hasn't really been around for 4,000 years, a lot of things are new and foreign to him, and that adds to some of his humor. Another character that I really enjoyed was the addition of Dr. Fate. I think the obvious comparison to Dr. Fate is Doctor Strange, and although I've always appreciated Doctor Strange throughout the years, I have to say Dr. Fate has always been my favorite. I just love the design of the character with the golden helmet and the fact that it possesses people who wear it. It's almost like a magical curse, but it's pretty cool at the same time. Although this movie doesn't delve very deep into the possession aspect of the character, I still think it handled him very well, and I have very little complaints about the way he was done. Also, due to the abundance of all the DC characters in this movie, you get a lot of diverse action scenes, and a lot of them are very creative. There's a lot of unique shots that they do, and as I mentioned previously, Black Adam is incredibly brutal, and it adds a blockbuster entertainment aspect to the movie that isn't always seen in Marvel and even DC. And although it didn't always land for me, the comedy did have its moments, and I did think that the movie was pretty funny, and it did add some charm to The Rock's character of Black Adam. Once again, he sort of has that fish-out-of-water, ultra-violent comedy sense to him, so don't expect Black Adam to be cracking out jokes every 5 seconds, but more of his unawareness of the world of today is what makes his humor sort of shine. There are a lot of side characters that throw out a lot of quips and jokes that are funny sometimes. I'd also like to compliment the movie for how it wrestles with different themes of good and evil and then the gray area between. I think it does an admirable job of portraying those types of issues and how heroes think we're the good guys and you're the bad guys, and there's like a black and whiteness to everything. I think it was an interesting look into the minds of superheroes and how they process information a lot. There's also a certain post-credit scene at the end of the movie that I quite enjoyed. As a fan of, well, I can't really say because I don't want to spoil anything, but it did get me giddy, and it's sad, but that was maybe my favorite part of the movie, so I felt very appreciated. I also liked a lot of the lore and mythology that they built up in the movie. Although I feel like it could have been done better and it often comes off as very exposition heavy, I still appreciate the additions that it adds to the movie and its plot. Now, it's time to move on to the things that I didn't really enjoy with this movie. As I said, the comedy, although some of it lands, a lot of it falls flat and clashes with the tone of the movie. There's a lot of brutal violence in the movie, and then when the stakes are very high, people are just kind of casually joking as an army of the undead is coming for them and there is no hope, and it really takes me personally out of the movie. I know a lot of people expect this now as it's become very popular in the blockbusters, but as I said in my Halloween 2018 review, I feel that the comedy injection into these types of movies really can bog it down at times. I'm not saying I want a sad, depressing tale throughout the whole movie. I'm not saying that there's no point where jokes are appropriate, and there are a lot of effective uses of comedy in this movie. However, I feel that they take it too far in a lot of scenes, and that kind of bugs me. Another problem I have with this movie is the characters. I like a lot of them, and I don't like a lot of them. And I feel that there are too many characters filling up this screen. You have to deal with this Kandarian family, which is supposed to represent the people of Kandar as a whole, and how they sort of feel about the current state that the society is in, and why they want Black Adam to quote-unquote rescue them. And although they weren't terrible, they bogged down the movie a lot, and it felt like they were just injecting civilians into the plot that always came off as annoying and taking away from the characters I wanted to see more of, especially this kid. No hate on the actor who played him, but a lot of his delivery just came off flat, and I don't want to blame him. I know he's probably acting behind a green screen and no one's standing next to him, and I get that that's probably really hard. It's just, his performance came off flat a lot and took me out of the movie. And he's always on this skateboard, man. It's like, get off the darn skateboard, bro. The apocalypse is upon us. Just stop. Two more important characters in this movie are the mom and her brother. They're fine. They're just so cookie cutter. And whenever I spend time with them, I can't help but think I could be spending more time with Dr. Fate, with Black Adam, with the villain of this movie, which came off completely underdeveloped, by the way, and I'll get into that soon. The Smasher Adam comes into this movie, and although I liked him, there wasn't anything that really gave him personality other than the quirky superhero that's new at the job and doesn't know what he's doing yet, and that's where all of his humor lies. Just a very basic character type. And then you have the powerful female character that's graceful and smart. And like I said, these aren't terrible characters. They're just extremely basic and take away from the more interesting plot line with Black Adam, Dr. Fate, and also Hawkman, who I do have some issues with as well, unfortunately. I also didn't really care for the character of Hawkman a whole lot, although I think his inclusion was an overall positive in the movie, and I would really like to have seen his character written just a little bit better. He comes off so black and white to the point of blindness that it's just hard to like a character like that or really get behind any of his logic. And although I like how the movie wrestles with the ideas of good and evil, and how you sometimes need a darker hero that's a little bit more in the gray area to make certain situations in life work, certain situations in life make sense, they present it in such a basic and almost kindergarten childish way that it takes away from the impact of it, because people are just talking about, you think good is this and evil is that, and I'm telling you, we need someone bad to take over this situation. And they talk a lot about it, but they don't necessarily show it. The concepts are presented in such a basic, lackadaisical, and childish way that they lack zero nuance. And for that reason, the ideas in this movie suffer greatly. The villain in this movie is just also terrible. Like, he just kind of is there. He's got no screen presence, and then, spoiler alert, kind of, he devolves into a big CGI monster that the characters have to fight at the end of the movie. And I know that's something you just come to expect with these hero movies, but it's just so lazy. He comes off as every basic, generic, big CGI monster villain that you could think of, and has absolutely no screen presence. And I understand that there's maybe a point to that in the sense that Black Adam is already kind of villainous in the way he goes about things anyway, but I feel they could have done a better job reflecting what makes Black Adam different from other villains by using this guy as a way to reflect Black Adam's morals in a more effective manner. I also feel that Black Adam falls into the narrative trap of making a villain more of an anti-hero leaning towards the hero side. A lot of times these villain-focused origin story movies are scared to make a movie about a villain, about a bad guy. I think a good example of how to do that is the movie Joker, where it's not endorsing what he does, it's showing you how he gets to that point. But the Joker ultimately is still a bad guy, is still a crazed lunatic. But this movie falls more in the lines with the Morbius approach of he's actually a good guy and ends up doing heroic things by the end of the movie. Instead of being a descent into madness, a descent into the reign of Black Adam, he becomes more of a good guy who's just a little violent. Well, not a little, very violent, but still is a good guy that just kills people by the end of his movie, which to me was a little disappointing. I would have liked him to be a little bit more at odds with the heroes at the end of the movie, instead of coming to a perfect resolution where everything is just fine. My last big complaint with this movie is that I feel it's paced very awkwardly. Not in the sense that it's boring ever, because there's constant action, and I would say that that is a positive of the movie, but it feels like there's almost 4 acts. The movie kind of comes to a certain conclusion where you're like, okay, it feels like it's wrapping up, and then they throw in like another act, and so all of a sudden Black Adam is back in action, and I was thinking, oh, this movie's probably over, and for that reason, it felt a little bit elongated, paced poorly, and came off very awkward to me. But overall, I do think the movie was a decent amount of fun. I think anyone, especially kids, can go into this movie and be like, oh my gosh, did you see what Black Adam did? Did you see him tear those people apart? He's so cool. And I think there's a lot of appeal to that. The Rock, once again, brings a charismatic performance to an anti-hero character, and that's a lot of fun. Once again, Dr. Fate is super cool, and I love seeing his use of magic in this movie and the creative ways that they implemented into the action scenes. There are a lot of cool action scenes, and there is a lot of brutal PG-13 violence, but I still think that it is super fun. I do feel that the ideas in the movie are presented in such a blunt and non-nuanced way that it detracts from them, but they're still there, and they're still implemented in a way that's somewhat satisfactory. And although I feel like a lot of characters sort of bloat the movie and take screen time away from characters that I'd rather see, none of them are terrible. None of them are completely awful characters, so you can still have fun with it. Except for that kid with the skateboard. Yeah, that kid really needed to be taken out. But yeah, Black Adam, a fun time. I'd have to give it a 5 out of 10. It's pretty average for me. It doesn't do anything super new, but it's not a bad time. I didn't regret watching it, and if someone was like, hey, I haven't seen Black Adam, should I go see it? I would say, yeah, I think you would enjoy it. But you guys know me, and my opinion isn't law, and I encourage you guys to see the movie yourself and let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was the best superhero movie ever made? Okay, I might not take you seriously if you say that, but hey, we all have our opinions, we all have our hot takes, so please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And once again, please leave feedback. I'm always trying new things, and I want to see what you guys like and what you guys think I could do better. But I appreciate everyone who watches this video and giving me your time. That means the world to me. But for now, this is Buster Brown signing off, and I will see you next time. Later.